like to know what kind of an audience I'm speaking to. How many of you have heard of Raymond Roussel before today? Okay, now this is a tough question. How many of you have read Raymond Roussel? Okay, this is a good crowd. You're honest in as much as you're providing us with an actual, really good sense that some of you have not actually read. And let's just say it's certainly not easy. How many of you know where he is buried? Have you visited his grave? If you were to go to the theater, I'm sorry, that was a slip, and a pretty accurate one. If you were to go to the cemetery where Raymond Roussel is buried, you might miss his grave. There aren't many flowers there, but you won't miss Oscar Wilde. And Oscar Wilde is not too far away. The Raymond Roussel Society, as its driving force, one will feel has accurately observed, Raymond Roussel is someone who history owes him something and has not given it to him. And so few people know that much about him, and yet if you were to pick any part of his life, any aspect of it, whether it was his net worth, his gourmet proclivities, his decisions to travel, what he bought, what toys he had, what he did in his spare time, what he chose to spend his money on, each of them are a different avenue that is so fascinating that from there you can just keep going. And that's just the biography. If you look at who he influenced, and in turn who those he influenced you will see that so much of design today, so much of the things that you wear, or the objects, even electronic objects that you carry in your pockets, owe something to Raymond Roussel. Roussel was the author of The View, Impressions of Africa, and Locus Solus. And he is still one of the least known and most mysterious writers of the 20th century. Despite the fact that he, his profound and often subterranean influence spread far and wide among the literary and artistic avant-gardes of the 20th century. In the 10 works he published during his lifetime, we're talking about poems, novels in verse, narratives or plays, he made all of these supreme efforts to create a world from scratch, where imagination is everything, with nothing real to get in the way of writing. I mean, he was wrapped in a singular poetic enterprise, and he was utterly convinced of his own genius. He passed through the first third of the 20th century like a man caught between two worlds, paying absolutely no attention to the political upheaval and the aesthetic consequences of this political upheaval. But he nonetheless understood that there was something he was missing. And that was, why is it that the academic public thinks that he was writing for, that he really wanted to be known for, showed such remarkable indifference to his works, or why they were in fact so incredibly scandalized by all of the dramatic adaptations he did of these works for the stage. Until 1914, Roussel lived in Parisian high society. And it was, if you want to really take a look at it, it is described in Marcel Proust's novels. In his mother, Marguerite Roussel, in her salon, it was all form or theater with festivities, dinners, costume balls, and you can see this from the photographs that survive of the Roussel family in their fancy dress parties. This society made Roussel very aware that social relationships are a form of representation, and meanwhile his homosexuality led him to distance himself from society progressively, and choosing to dedicate his entire life to his literary work. It was above all to channel an unstoppable imagination that today would probably land him in some kind of poem or deep therapy of some kind. That he ended up writing some of his books by resorting to this, quote, very special procedure based on a combination of homophonic words and expressions with double meanings. The path traveled between these words, deliberately situated at the beginning and at the end of a text, provided him with a framework of his writing and an inexhaustible amount of material in the form of unexpected images and narratives in which citation and invention are essentially inseparable. And although it took him a very long time to realize it, Roussel won an enthusiastic following during his lifetime among generations of artists and poets. Marcel Duchamp, who along with Guillaume Apollinaire and Francis Picabia attended his Impressions d'Afrique at the theater in 1912, they never forgot the experience, and they cited it as the main origin of his Grand Verre. For the surrealist, Roussel was the writer who accomplished, quote, the evasion from the sphere of reality to that of the concept. And after a period of neglect, his work has attracted new interest in the 1960s, especially after the investigations of Michel Foucault and the Collège des Pataphysiques. Roussel, who took great care to give as little information as possible about his own life, is for many the model of an artist at the heart of the labyrinth of his own work. I could, give a 2.5-hour lecture, probably with a small bathroom break, in describing just biographical aspects of his life without actually even entering a discussion of his work. So with that, I'd like to invite the first panelist.